Hi there, it is me. I'm back. So I've been trying to make this video all week, literally all week. Here it is, Wednesday, what is it, the 21st of January, 20th, 21st. Anyway, finally got to it. And so I really want to talk about time and prioritizing our time and how, like, when you turn 50, time starts to look different. It starts to look different. It starts to feel different. It is it is about not so much survival mode anymore, because in many circumstances, or in some circumstances, people have raised their kids. It's really about choices, right? And you deciding how you're going to spend your time, because the true reality of it all is, whether we do or don't do, time is going to continue to pass by. That is just how it is, right? People are born and they die every single day, and not once has time stopped because any of those things happen, right? And so, if you are new here, thank you for being here. I am Fenella. I am a recently retired, well, it'll be a year here at the end of this month that I would have retired at 52 years old from a large major corporation as an HR manager. That was by choice that I decided that I wanted to retire early. And I had been reselling just as like something, because I love shopping, as a working person. And so I've taken that on full time now. And so I am really in a sweet spot, because I'm very, 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 very fortunate that I don't need to worry about finances anymore. Not so much, because I've been preparing for this transition into retirement for many, many years before I ever did it. So, anyway, but I want to talk about again this idea of time, and how again, whether you do or don't do, time is going to continue to pass, right? Um, there are just things in life that are inevitable. And of course, people say death and taxes, yes, but there's illnesses, there's good things that happen in life, right? And all the while, the time just keeps going by. And so I bring this up because I was thinking about making this video and really looking at, oh my God, what have you done all week, and thinking about your time. I mentioned, again, I'm a reseller. I mean, you can see um, some of the stuff behind me that I, resell on a regular basis. So I'm busy a lot, and the day does sometimes seem to get away from me. But there are things that I do prioritize. One of them is making sure that at least Monday through Friday, I am on my treadmill and I am making my heart stronger, because I don't want to be in a situation where I have two kids, they're adults. My son and daughter, have to determine, who's gonna keep mama this weekend, because I haven't done the job of taking care of myself. So really, this conversation is about using your time with intention and not guilt, right? And so, really, in thinking about the time that you have and the time that we have, in preparation for being an older person, I mentioned I prioritize making sure that I'm working out at least Monday through Friday, normally at least 45 minutes, and I'm walking, on my treadmill incline somewhere between 5 and 10%, right? That is how I choose to get my heart strong, because I know that I'm just getting older, right? And with that, again, time is going to continue passing by. And so, whether I do or don't do it, it's just going to keep going. And I come from a family of people who, you do have in certain situations where, you're an aunt or an uncle or a cousin or somebody, gets to a point where somebody else has to take care of them. And, that could be for a multitude of reasons and not anybody's fault. And of course, nothing is guaranteed, but I want to do everything that is within my power now and even, 10 years ago to make sure that I'm doing everything to remain in full control of my own life and not having to, have my children step in to help me because, I made different decisions for my own well being that limited my mobility or, limited anything. So, and again, nothing is guaranteed. But again, in thinking about this idea of time, because what I'm learning is when you retire, if you don't have a plan, the days can feel pretty long. And I've not been in that situation in the almost 365 days that I've been retired. I've not felt, I can honestly say, I've not felt like, what am I going to do? I don't know what to do now because again, I'm running a small business. That is a choice, that is not anything that I have to do, which is a blessing. And so that fills up my time, sourcing things to resell and, getting things ready for customers who have purchased, all of that takes a lot of time. And I'm very, very fortunate that I do have lots of customers from every state on the map. And so, anyway, so that is how one way that I'm spending my time. But, of course, when we think about aging and, how that's going to happen for all of us, whether we like it or not, and, how important it is to prioritize our physical and mental well-being, while we're still, younger, right? And I still feel young. I'm 53 now. I've had a birthday since I retired. And so again, I just want to make sure that I'm doing everything that I need to do to extend my life and to not be a burden for, my family, my kids specifically. And so it's important that, again, I'm using my time in a way that is going to be suitable and beneficial to me as, 65-year-old Fenella or 75-year-old Fenella or 85-year-old Fenella or 95-year-old Fenella. If you don't hear anything, I plan to live a long life. That is my intention. That is what I want. But again, I know all of that depends on how I care for myself right now, right? And so again, when we think about time, and I've just got some notes down here because I don't want to miss anything, and how as you get older, it really is one of your most honest assets, right? Because, we think about money. Money can be replaced, right? People work well up into their 80s, right? Hopefully that's by choice. For some people it's by requirement, but you can, in many circumstances, replace your money. Your time, you're not going to get back. You will never be able to go back to, a 21-year-old or a 22-year-old or a 34-year-old or a 35-year-old, right? That ship has sailed. And so at 52, the time is more personal, more precious, and for sure more finite, right? Because, I don't want to waste anybody's time, and I don't want anybody wasting my time, right? 10 years ago, it wasn't really that, my kids were still younger and I was in the hustle and bustle and taking care of them and making sure that they had everything that they needed. So most of my time was about, my kids and, my nieces and my nephews and, and family, and making sure that these kids, were being reared properly, right? And having those experiences, that teenagers and, kids have, right? And so that's where I spent a lot of my time. But of course, the question that I have to ask is, where is your time going that no longer aligns with who you are now? Where is your time going, right? That no longer aligns with who you are right now. And I can honestly say with that question that I'm not doing anything that I don't want to do. And that's really a gift. That is very much a gift because right now there's somebody watching this video who has to get ready for tomorrow, right? They've been at work all week. It's Wednesday, hump day, middle of the week, and they've been working all week, and you've got to now come home. You've got to feed yourself, your kids, if you have kids, your pets. And tomorrow, you have a responsibility because you're trading your time for money to now go maybe to a place that you're not crazy about. It fits your needs, right? Because it's giving you're trading your time for that money, right? And those benefits. And I get it. I was there for a very long time doing that. And that is what needs to be done. And so I'm just in a different position now that I'm not really in a situation where I'm spending time where I don't want to spend time, right? And again, that is a gift. That is a gift. And I pray that any person who is watching this gets this earlier than later. Because again, whether you do or don't do, whether you make preparations for your future financially, from a health and wellness perspective, that time is going to keep ticking by, right? Because one thing is for certain, I'm just going to say January 1st, 2050, it is going to come. It is going to come. It is going to come no matter what. So if you are saying that you are going to do things different in 2026, this is your year, you're going to get it done, you're going to, do all these wonderful, fabulous things, I encourage you to actually do it because the time slips by so quickly. Again, I started this video talking about how I've been trying to do this video all week. I have. And, I prioritize things that are important. So finally today, because, here I am in a t-shirt and, I have this hat on and I'm up here in this kind of chaotic room. But I said, you know what? It's important. It's important that I share this message, and also in thinking about what your thoughts are about this topic, whether you're in your 50s, your 40s, your 30s, your 20s, or your 60s, your 70s, your 80s, what do you think about this idea that time is not going to wait on us? It's not going to wait on us. And like, what have you not prioritized that you need to prioritize, for this day or for this week or this month or this year, or this month or whatever? Because again, the time is going to go by, right? We're going to get older. I'm older now than I was when we started this video. And so again, I just want to remind us and highlight that, right? Because again, it's time is so elusive, right? I mean, you don't always think about it so specifically, maybe like you need to. Who among us hasn't put things off or procrastinated things that you need to do? Again, whether it's with your wellness, your health, your mental health, your finances, I just encourage you, everybody listening to this, watching this video, listening to this video, whatever you say you're going to do, go on and do it. Go on and do it, because the time is going to pass whether you do it or not, right? And it reminds me too of like some of my peers from, high school and college, and, some of the choices that they have made. And really the only thing that separates us, because, especially people that I went to high school with, elementary school with, the only thing that really separate us is like our decisions and choices, right? And so, again, I just want to encourage you to be mindful that the time is going to pass by. Some other things that I want you to prioritize for yourself is not only your health and your mental health and your finances and all of that stuff, but actually taking the time to write down what your vision is for yourself. And that vision may change. It may change as early as, in an hour, or, next week or whatever. And that is okay. That is okay. But it is so important as you get older, um, that you become more clear about what it is that you want for your life and start working towards that. Because there feels like sometimes, even to me, I mean, I'm only 53, but there's a bit more of an urgency now, right? Because the idea that you don't have as many years in front of you as you do behind you. The reality is, none of us know that. None of us know that. We just have to continue being mindful of the time and doing what we know is the right thing to do, not just for ourselves, but for our spouses, our family, our friends, all of those things. And so again, in thinking about the time and being clear about it, and saying no to things that don't serve you, right? I'm very, very fortunate that, because many times when I was working, you all have this. I mean, this is just corporate America 101. Somebody calls a meeting and everybody goes in the room, and at the end of the meeting, which was supposed to be 60 minutes, and it ends up being 90 minutes. You're like, what was the point of this meeting? This was a complete waste of my time, right? And then you go back to your desk and do the work that you could have been doing for that 90 minutes that you were sitting in that room, right? Because you don't own that time anymore, right? I mean, you're trading your time for the money with the corporation, again, which is required. That's what you have to do. Nothing wrong with that. But again, when you get away from work and you're thinking about your future and what are you going to do after you do leave that company or that organization, in thinking about how do you want to spend your time? Do you want to, do you want to have a small business? Do you want to, leave that company, but then go someplace else? I tell you, wherever you go, there's going to be something. Right? Wherever you go, there's going to be something. I mean, I have my own little small enterprise, and sometimes my customers, don't like everything that has happened. And so I have to deal with that. I have a little more latitude, right? A different business, reselling than working in corporate America. But my point is, you always have somebody to answer to. But the nice thing about having your own reselling business is, I can shut it down. I can shut it down, for a week or 2 weeks or three weeks if I decide to, because, I'm vacationing or something like that, or I'm reprioritizing something else. And so again, just want you to be mindful about how you're spending your time and be intentional about it. It's, again, specifically if you're, older, if you're like me, like 53 years old, right? Like, listen, we don't have time to play anymore. Okay. It is beyond go time, right? It's, especially if you raise your children and they are off on their own, and now it's really all about you and what serves you best, and what makes you the most delighted and satisfied. And so again, just be thinking about that and actually write that vision down. Write it down, whatever it is that you want for your life. That thought came on to me in my mental space here on Monday, and I said, I got to make a video. But so much of these videos, I'm just going to be honest, with YouTube, and this is me, I got to get out of my own way, is, well, I need to put on something nice and get in front of the camera. And so normally I am like decent, but today I just said, you know what, go on and prioritize making this message, because the day is going to turn into the next day and the time is going to tick on, and you still will not have made this video because you just keep allowing other things to get in front of. So I just said, you know what, I'm in this t-shirt, this St. Lucia t-shirt, and I have my hat on, and it's kind of crazy in here, but I just prioritize the time because the time's going to pass by anyway, whether I do or don't do. And I wanted to make sure that I did it today. So that is my message. Making sure again that you are choosing yourself, and that in some ways you're if you are retired or getting ready to retire, redesigning your days, right? And doing the things that you want to do, right? Because the time we will not get back, and it will march on whether you do or don't do. So make sure you write it down and make it plain, and really, really begin to execute whatever it is that you want for your life. It is so important. So important. I think about, I promise I'm getting ready to wrap up, but I just, I remember listening to somebody and thinking about, or hearing that, if you think about it, all of the things that you wanted for your life and where you are right now, that was decisions and choices that you've made, up to this point. So if you're in a situation that is not the best and you want to make a change, you have to do that. Nobody is coming to save you. You have to do that. You have to make those hard decisions and choices. I mean, I look around, my space, and I'm just like, I think I did okay. I think I did okay with making good decisions and choices for myself and for my family, with of course, the partnership of my husband. And so it's going well, and I expect it just to keep getting better. So that's it. Please like and subscribe. Please share this message. I am newer on YouTube, being consistent with these messages and thoughts. And so I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.